A few weeks ago on a cool April night, I made the trek to my school's library in one last desperate bid to pass my data structures and algorithm class. I was failing, admittedly through my own fault, but if I could manage to pull my final project together and make at least an 86, I would scrape by and avoid having to take the class again. So, I threw my laptop, headphones, and multiple energy drinks into my backpack and prepared myself to spend the whole night working. The main floor of the library was pretty empty, but I decided to go to my usual spot anyway. It was a small group of tables on the 4th floor, tucked away in a corner surrounded by rows of bookshelves. Most students don't make it up to that level. I'm pretty sure most people don't even know you can go to the 4th floor. You can't get to it from the elevator. Instead, you have to get off the elevator at the 3rd floor and take the staircase that's tucked away in an alcove next to a dusty vending machine. They aren't connected to the main stairs, so most people miss them. When I reached the study tables, there was only one other person in there, some older guy intently working on a paper. I nodded to him and sat down, glancing at the clock on the wall. 9 p.m., I winced. Taking that nap earlier had definitely been a mistake. Despite my late start, I managed to work pretty steadily for several hours. I was so focused that I even forgot to pull out any of my energy drinks. When I finally looked up from my barely working program, a couple of necessary functions had to be commented out completely or the stupid thing wouldn't even compile. It was around 2 a.m. I shifted in my seat, my back protesting from how long I had been hunched over my laptop. I needed to walk around and stretch for a bit. I stood up and wandered down an aisle, scanning book titles idly. There seemed to be a thin layer of dust over most of them. I wondered if anyone even checked these books out. I made it to the end of the aisle and rounded the corner, intending to walk back down the adjacent aisle to the study tables. But the end of the aisle was blocked by another bookshelf. I turned around and started to make my way down the first aisle. My steps faltered. The end of this aisle was blocked by a bookshelf too. I slowed to a halt and looked up and down the row. Had I gotten turned around? Surely not. My path had practically been a straight line, but I must have. It's not like the heavy metal shelves had moved in the minute that it took me to walk down the aisle. I turned back and started to try the other way again when I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I could feel someone watching me. Very slowly, I turned my head towards the shelf to my right. Nothing. I turned my head to the left and almost jumped a foot in the air. There was something standing on the next aisle over, peering at me through a narrow gap in the books. Its face was a sickly gray and its eyes were wide and unblinking. It didn't react when I gasped. "You scared me," I choked out, taking a half step back. It cocked its head. The creature rasped. At least that's what I think it said. I could barely understand it. What? I took another step back. Game. Its voice grew stronger every time it spoke, as if it had gone unused for a long time. I don't have time for a game, I stammered. Another step back. I have to get back to my... The creature's hand slammed through the row of books, knocking several to the floor. It flailed long, gray fingers grabbing for me. Game! The creature shrieked, and I didn't hang around any longer to find out what it wanted to play. I booked it down the aisle and ran as far in the opposite direction from the thing as I could. In my terror, I didn't notice at first that the rows of bookshelves I was running down were much longer than they should have been. The library was pretty big, but I was on the smaller 4th floor. I should have been running over the parking lot at that point. I finally stopped to catch my breath when I thought I had gotten far enough away from the creature. I realized I couldn't see the walls of the library anymore, only rows and rows of shelves stocked to the brim with dusty books. I looked through the gaps of the books, trying to find the study area or anything that would tell me where I was, but there was nothing. Nothing but books and shelves as far as the eye could see. Above me, the fluorescent lighting buzzed. I thought about climbing a shelf and looking out over the tops to find my way back, but I was honestly afraid of what I would find if I did. What if I couldn't find the stairs again? What if the library had completely disappeared and the only thing left were bookshelves stretching eternally? I was pulled out of my panic when I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. I froze, watching for any movement. There it was again, a flash of movement unnaturally fast. I zeroed in on it. There, several rows away, was the creature, staring at me as if it had never moved. When it caught my gaze, it ducked out of view and I heard a scampering sound. It sounded like something running on all fours. I took off. Even though my body was still on fire from the last bout of running, I twisted and looped through rows in ways I hoped that I'd throw it off my trail. Eventually, I slowed down again to save my strength, but the whole time I knew that somewhere nearby the creature still hunted me. The shelves became more labyrinth-like with every corner I turned. There was no more neat lines of adjacent rows. The aisles twisted and turned and branched and stopped dead with no warning. The books looked different too. Some looked absolutely ancient, as if they would crumble if I tried to pull them off the shelves. Some books looked oddly new. I pulled one of the newer books off the shelf in a moment of untimely curiosity. The front cover was a single word in a language I didn't know. I flipped it open and turned to a few pages. To my surprise, they were all blank. It was getting dark then, like the buzzing lights couldn't quite reach me wherever I was, even though I could still see them above me. As I turned another corner, I came upon a small area with no other paths out of it besides the one I had come in through. It looked like the bookshelves had been haphazardly pushed aside to form a small clearing, and loose paper from several fallen books was scattered everywhere. I felt my heart thud in my chest when I saw that some of the pages were stained with a rust brown color that was almost black. I took a step further in and almost tripped over something half hiding under a crumbling book. I kicked the book away and froze in horror. Sitting on the floor in front of me was a human skull, picked completely clean. Suddenly, I knew the truth. All my running had been for nothing. I never had a chance to escape. These shelves weren't a maze, they were a web. The creature had been chasing me here the whole time, getting me slowly, carefully stuck fast in its trap. And now, I was here in its nest, waiting for it to come to dinner. Behind me, I heard the scampering sound again. I whipped around to see the creature peering at me from the end of the aisle. Its body was hidden behind the bookcase, and it poked its head around the corner in a way that was almost childlike. I'd seen how fast it could move. I only had a moment to act. "Wait!" I screamed. It tilted its head ever so slightly. My mind raced. "You wanted to play a game, right?" "Game?" The creature stared, unmoving. "It's not really a game unless you give me a chance to escape. How is it a game if there's no possible way I can win?" As I distracted the creature, I looked around for any way to get out. Luck must have been with me because I noticed a small gap between two bookshelves that I hadn't seen before. I threw myself at the gap, barely managing to squeeze through as the creature rushed towards me. I felt fingers barely graze the back of my shirt as I took off running. I took a few more random turns and then, like I'd never left, I burst free of the shelves, back at the group of study tables. The only other person on the fourth floor, the older guy from before who had been writing a paper, gave me a dirty look before focusing back on his laptop screen. I didn't bother to grab my stuff. I sprinted for the stairs, going down them two at a time until I hit the third floor. I ran to the main staircase, tearing down them so fast I almost fell, then through the lobby and out the main door, gulping fresh air that I thought I'd never taste again. A couple of days later, I asked a friend to check the library's lost and found for me, and she was able to get most of my things and bring them to me. My earbuds were missing, but I didn't care. I considered it a small price to pay for my life. I also failed my algorithms class, but honestly, that was going to happen anyway. For a couple of weeks, I thought I was safe. I really did. I thought I had managed to beat the creature and escape its labyrinth. I had thought of it like a spider. Something that would catch an unsuspecting fly that stumbled into its web, but couldn't give chase if the fly unstuck itself. But now I know the truth. It had taunted me with freedom like a cat with a mouse, letting me dart out from underneath its grasp only to snap me back up again the next second. During the day, I can feel its eyes on me, watching me from the dark corners as I make my way around campus, even as I give the library a wide berth. I hear the sounds of the creature's movement in my nightmares now, every single night. And every night, it sounds like it's getting closer. Thank you for listening to this story. If you'd like to hear me read more stories, why not press the subscribe button? If you liked tonight's story, why not share some love with the author? Videos like this one aren't possible without these talented authors. It's the first link in the description.